That was it. It's like, let's write a pulp show for the 21st century. Let's embrace that ethos. And then also be aware that the genre audience is sophisticated. They have seen a lot of versions of this show. They've seen a lot of tropes. So let us not be afraid of playing with those expectations. Let us let them think it's one show for half the episode and then flip it on them. Because they're smart enough to know what you're doing 5 minutes in. So you have to play with them.
Is the show more of an action-adventure serial, or are there overarching mythology elements that link it all together?
There are overarching mythology elements that link it all together, but I'm a strong believer, and a lot of people are. First season, for me, should always be, I see there's a great new show. Do I have to catch up? No, you can watch this week. You should be very friendly to the drop-in for the first season. And then, even really for the first two, because it's so crowded now. It's so hard to get viewers to pay attention. By the time they do, you don't want it to feel forbidding. But we usually try to reward you if you watch all of them. So the idea is if you watch occasionally, you will enjoy it, it will be fun, you will see the characters changing and evolving, but if you watch all the way through, when you get to the finale, you'll go, I know what they did back in episode 4, that's why they did that in episode 8, and it will be a payoff for you. So you are friendly to the new viewer, but you reward the loyalty.
That's the ultimate trick, isn't it? Because that's one of the things I've always felt is the problem with J.J. Abrams, is it's just sometimes too weighty to get into.
It sucks you in, and look, far be it for me to say JJ doesn't know what he's doing making TV, but I think that was a very specific time when you still didn't have a million channels, and so the serialization aspect would hook you in, but you didn't have the distraction of a million other shows. Now you're doing 10, 13 episodes, now 130 shows premiere every fall. How do you keep from getting lost in the noise, that way? So
I wanted to ask, so the Serpent Brotherhood hasn't been seen since the first movie.
Yes.
What was the decision to bring them back?
Because I'm a mythology geek. It was essentially what I did is to do it. I said, all right, we're going to honor the movies. The movies are a launching pad. The movies has a ridiculously large fan base for the last one that was made 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I went back and watched it, and it's like, well, they're awful, and they have a good agenda.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's really important that your villain has an actual plan. He's not, I'm going to do this. He's got we're going to do this and this and this, and at the end of the day, we will have won. Your villain should be smart. And so you needed, I wanted an opposite organization, but one that wasn't just dropped out of the sky onto the mythology, and they seem to be a good way to do it.
And so Matt Frewer is going to be, I guess, the big bad?
He is the big bad for the season, absolutely.
Can you talk more about that?
Sure, he's Dulac. He is the leader of the Serpent Brotherhood. He has an assassin played by Leslie Ann Brandt named who calls herself Lamia. They all have these sort of code names. The cult wants to bring magic back to the world. They're good with that. They think the world kind of went askew and magic went away, and they want to bring it back. And as a result, they've been a recurring villain against the library for centuries. And you slowly, pretty quickly, probably figure out in the series that Dulac has been around for centuries. And if you really pay attention, you'll figure out who he is and why before the finale. And so we really wanted to create this idea that there's a big bad organization out there, and they're actually a little smarter than you, and they're a little meaner, and they will win. And they beat us up pretty badly, multiple episodes, especially the first two. They just beat the hell out of our guys.
So is that kind of tie into Noah's kind of over?
They create the big giant problem that Noah has to go solve, and then he kind of comes back and forth. Well, the way I explain it is, for the movies, magic would poke its head up, and the librarian's job is to go smack it down. Because of something that happens in the first two episodes, magic is seeping back into the world. And one guy can't control it, and he can't even really control it anymore. So this is the beginning, God willing, of a sort of a brush fire war with magic that our guys are in charge of investigating, figuring out what's going on and what weird stuff is going on. There are occasionally oh, it's an artifact, and they grab the artifact. That's maybe one out of every 3. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a plot, sometimes it's a natural phenomena, sometimes it's an unsolved mystery. That's the fun of it.
What was your favorite artifact, or maybe your favorite plot that you guys started to develop this season?
I will tell you the thing that made me laugh the hardest, which was one of those things where as soon as somebody said it, because I was like, we're doing the episode, stop what we're doing, we're just going to write this right now, is we're trying to figure out what are objects of power. So we said, well, people of power, people like the myth about so many souls that held the world together. It's and we had all the myths of the world up on the wall. So Bigfoot's up there, Dracula, though we killed him, is up there, Santa was up there, the Fae were up there, every weird thing you could think of. And I just looked up at the board, and I'm like, and I can't remember who said it, it's like Santa. Santa's magical. And so what are you going to do with Santa? He said, kill him and steal his magic? And I said, are we doing the episode where we try to kill Santa? yes! And that was it was an episode that wrote in like a week. Because, well, what do we do? Well, it's a chase scene. Well, what's the most unexpected chase movie to do with Santa? Midnight Run. So it's essentially Eve Baird, who hates Christmas, and Bruce Powell and Bruce Campbell as Santa, like stuck in a truck, fleeing from the bad guys, just hating each other the entire time. And it was just one of those big high concept episodes that as you're writing it and shooting it, like, this is why we do this. It's super fun.
Matt Frewer, whose idea was that? I love him.
I had worked with Matt
from Max Etter.
You know what? I had worked with him a bunch of times. We were looking for a guy, and he's super hard to get now. His availability really has collapsed. I'd worked with my consultant on Eureka, and I knew him from there. Of course, everyone knows him from his other roles.
Yeah.
But we wanted a guy who was kind of crisp and menacing, but could land a joke, and that's the big thing. Not every actor on earth can land a joke, and there are certain times when he has to be menacing, and there are certain times, like the Christmas episode, Bruce Campbell's just driving him quietly crazy. He starts, and Bruce Campbell interrupts him, and Frewer does a great little evil genius. Don't get to you. Like, he just pulls it together, and that's it. There are not a lot of actors with that range who can do that menacing, but knows where the joke is and go, all right, kiss that. Now back to the main thing. It's just skill. He's just a great guy.
Were there other reasons besides financial for filming in Portland?
Well, we knew Portland. Like, one of the things was the show had to come together very quickly because of everyone's schedule, and because we had shot in Portland before. We knew we had the infrastructure there. We knew where we could shoot. We knew a lot of the big locations. You know, there were even a couple episodes where it's like, okay, outside the Vatican, you know that fountain by the corner of 2nd and Ankeny down by the river? Like, we can do that. Like, we knew the city and the area that well enough that we had like 5 weeks of prep. You usually have months of prep. So that speed is knowing the location, that speed. Let's sneak one more in, she's not here. Oh, another question before she goes back.
When can we expect it?
December 7th, we will show the first 2 episodes, which are a continuous story, at 8 and 9 o'clock. And then after that, we do a couple, then there's the Christmas episode, then Noah Wiley comes back for a little bit, and then we finish up in the first couple weeks of January.
You seem to love TV, but do you other mediums that you want to explore as well?
Well, I wrote comics, and I love comics, and I actually have a comic book company called Thrillbent that's a webcomic site that Mark Wade and I started. And because we wanted to explore different ways of doing digital, not just digital delivery, but digital formatting for stories. And so we've experimented a lot with how you tell stories digitally. It's a somewhat profitable hobby at this point, but it really is. Comics and TV are very close. They're both long-form storytelling with long character arcs, and the great thing is, though, I don't have to worry about the budget on my show, on a comic. You know, when I was doing superheroes comics, it's like, we should have a giant fight now, right? I don't have to pay actors or pay for CG. Yeah, just have a giant fight.
Let me get a picture of you, and would you tell